Hello, everybody, and welcome to another exciting show. Give us a second. We're going to wait for folks to join the broadcast, including my good friend Micah Smith. Looks like Micah's coming in. And
Gabe, super excited to be here.
happy Friday, my man.
How are you?
Doing good.
Man, I get so excited about these kind of conversations, especially when we get to hear from real customers and hear their story about exactly where they're at now, what they've been through. I think the coaching and the guidance and the lessons learned are super valuable for anyone else who's able to listen in and steal some of those nuggets.
Yeah, this is going to be good. We're excited. We're just going to let a few people join before we dive in. But for those of you that are already listening, in the pre-interview, some really good stuff from our guest Ryan Tripp, who's from Toro Group up in he's based out of Toronto, but there's going to be some really cool stuff. Is one thing in particular I'm excited to dive into. So we'll get to that here in a second. We'll let a few more people join. Micah, while we're letting people join, are you getting excited for Imagine?
Yeah, super excited. We're icing the cake right now. We've already got most of the content done. We're just putting those final touches on all of our sessions. And yeah, I'm really excited about some of the new frameworks, some of the new concepts that we're going to be introducing. You know me, my big thing on going to a conference or someone who's showing up at our sessions is like, you have to be able to walk away with something tangible that you can implement tomorrow, today, whatever, that you can get started with. And so that's what we focused on. We've got downloadable assets. We've got some takeaway stuff that is really going to help people to accelerate their automation journey. And especially as they start to transition into this Gen AI powered automation phase that I think a lot of our customers are going through and going to start really accelerating through. I think we're really excited about some of the new messaging and the new guidance we have in that area. I'm also super excited about bot games. We're going to have 3 new bot games challenges live at Imagine. All of them will focus various aspects of our recent platform updates to include things like our generative recorder, document automation, integration with Amazon Bedrock. So super excited for these new challenges and for people to get hands-on. And then finally, we'll have Bot Games Lightning, which is our touchscreen version of Bot Games and a really fun homage to the automation development experience. And I'm really excited for people to get to try that out more broadly as well.
I can't wait to do Lightning, dude. I know we talked about it as you were developing it for, what was it, Google Next, I think, to debut it there, and so much fun and good feedback on it. I'm excited to do it myself. And of course, the sessions will be magical. And to your point about practical takeaways and insights, let's get to the show, because I think there's a lot to be had from today's show as well. Let me introduce our 2 guests. Today we have Ryan Tripp from the Toro Group. Ryan, how are you?
I'm doing well, Gabe. Thanks for having us. I'm excited to have this conversation today.
Yeah, thanks for joining us, man. It was really nice to meet you. I know, as I mentioned, we had a pre-interview briefing, and it was great to get to know you a little bit. And of course, we have Sunil Ranka, who is a for Predikly, and Predikly is one of our title sponsors for Imagine this year, and has been a great supporter and great partner for us over the years. Sunil is a repeat guest here. So Sunil, welcome back.
Thank you so much. Excited to be here.
All right, so let's dive in. Ryan, as I mentioned, there was a couple interesting things that I found out about you during our conversations and whatnot. But one of the things that I thought was really interesting was just your title. If people are looking at your profile on LinkedIn, you've got CPA in your title, in your name, and you're the group controller. You're not like an IT head of automation or anything like that. So I'm curious a little bit about your background and how you ended up running an automation program.
Yeah, so looking back at how this even started, it was literally a email that came into, I think, our CFO's inbox that talked about automation. And he said, "Oh, this sounds interesting." And I started down the path from literally an email that came in, and having no knowledge of utilization of automation tools like Automation Anywhere or other ones out there. And it was a finance-driven project from start to finish. We obviously have IT support in the background, but it was not an IT-driven project.
That's so interesting. And well, first of all, since I'm an emailer by trade or as part of my function, I'm glad that email works. So that's a good thing. So thanks for validating. What were some of like your early, as you start to learn a little bit more? I mean, and maybe the excitement started to grow. Like, what was sort of the ahas that as you got past the email and started to explore a little bit, what stood out to you about the power of automation, and what you started to think and how you started to think where you could go with it?
Yeah, so when I started at Toro, we were literally using manual invoices. This was 5 years ago. Manual invoices would come in. We would package them all together, issue manual checks, and that would run around our offices to get signed. And when we're processing close to 45,000 invoices a year, like that's a incredible volume, and there's no scalability to it because more invoices just means more coordinators to be processing that. And so we quickly shifted everything digital, and ultimately, once the pandemic hit, we moved to a fully remote environment, and it wouldn't have been possible without everything moving paperless. And then we actually did our initial phases of automation fully remote, connected with you guys, and it was really about how do we build a system that's scalable, both on our current volume of invoices, as well as we grow as a company and look to expand and look to the future.
Yeah.
Sunil, give me some background. I mean, I know Ryan said that the IT stuff is the driving force behind this, but finance has really been in charge of it. How did you and Ryan get plugged up together? How long have you guys been supporting what Ryan and team are driving?
Yeah. So it's a very interesting journey at Toro Group for us. We got an introduction through the account manager at Automation Anywhere, and I spoke to Ryan, and I was not even sure how it's going to go because they were new to this, and this is about a couple of years back. To be very precise, about 2.5 years back. I spoke to Ryan. Um, and he said, I'm from finance and don't have much IT background, don't know the IT part, and we did not even have the any IT involved to begin with. And I was like, how is it going to go through this? But I think one thing which was very different about Ryan and group was they were very determined in terms of efficiency improvement, and they were very focused on a problem statement, which was the automation of the invoices, and they trusted the system, they trusted the platform, and they trusted us. And that was an exciting journey to begin with. And over the years, we continue to talk. But this is one of the very different project we did where minimal involvement of IT, and then now getting to a point where we are talking about few more automations at Toro Group.
That's great. So, Ryan, the thing that I'm super curious about, and because you're coming from finance and you're a group controller, how did you define your initial KPIs and define what success would look like with your automation program? Was it quick wins? Was it the biggest ROI to start? I know you've probably been super dialed into financial metrics, but are there other metrics you're looking at that, kind of point to success here? All the things I want to know.
Yeah, so I think one of the first views of looking at this project was the difficulty of just hiring staff. I mean, people would turn over. We would be bringing people in on a consistent basis. It was at times tough to find new people. So like for the long-term sustainability of both our group and our team, looking at tools to increase the productivity of our current staff as well as empowering them was really important for me, to both take them from doing some of the manual efforts that they put in and allowing them to bring value to the organization by doing focusing in on some of the more value added processes that they work on. So when we looked at this project, it became we have all these invoices that need to get processed. We have systems in the background that do a lot of the verification for us, but putting it all together was the key, and getting to the point where I think now we're approaching 50 to 60% of our invoices that are going to be fully automated. And that is only going to grow as we carry on. And now we're looking at other areas in payroll to start expanding and other places throughout the business.
I really like this. I really like that you're walking the talk, right? We talk about human centric. It's a foundational principle here at Automation Anywhere. And the idea of the empowerment. I love that that's like the first thing that you talk about versus sort of like straight through processing percentage or something, right? Which is obviously a byproduct of it, but this idea of empowering people to be able to do more, it's a very real thing, right? In an economy that's got workforce shortages and all these different things, there's a ton of cost in that turnover.
Yeah, and the main driver of this project started out as a AP coordinator in our business and has not a whole lot of background in even looking at process improvements, and now taking that person where at the beginning of the project it was me pushing them up the hill and being the cheerleader of the project and trying to get them excited about the journey that we were going to take. There came an aha moment when he came into my office and goes, "Ryan, like, this is saving me so much time. This is like incredible. What can we do next? Like, how do we take on the next challenge?" And that person has gone from a low-level employee in the company to now being one of the key assets to our organization, and he's been there 21 years. Like, this is something that in the last three years that we've been going down this, it's gone from being just an average employee in the business to now being a major driver of change for the organization.
That's amazing. I love to hear that story. As you think about that one individual, what are the opportunities, and what is sort of do you have a process to like a documented go forward plan to empower and equip more folks? You mentioned other use cases in other functions. Is that part of the plan, or are you looking at the use cases first?
Yeah, so it's definitely now expanding that out to get new people within payroll kind of looking at these tools, because now that I've gone through the automation process, everywhere I look, I can see opportunities to improve our processes, look at ways to streamline the way we do things, and do new things where we have some tasks that, yes, it would be great to be able to do it, but the manual lift that it would have taken to do some of this reporting or do some of this data integrity work would just be too immense. We would need to be going out and hiring new people to do these things, and it would be incredibly time consuming. So now we can start looking at some of these opportunities and then tackling them using automation and putting processes in place to give us better information as an organization, just to be able to run the business.
I like that. Not to get too nerdy here, but I was reading a paper from the Oxford Martin School from University of Oxford, and they were talking about how
Is that a humble
productivity
brag?
growth.
Is that a humble brag? Michael?
Humble brag. productivity growth has been going down for the last like 20 years globally, specifically in the US, Japan, and the UK. Canada wasn't mentioned, but it's really interesting how you're enabling employees to be more productive through means of automation. I'm curious how you're measuring the impact of delivered automations and what kind of metrics you're looking at to define success for these programs and these projects.
So for us, there's simple metrics like number of invoices being processed by Automation Anywhere, and then there is more kind of complex metrics around improved financial reporting. So we're looking at ways to provide better information to management, provide statistics and KPIs to management, where previously we used to be able to do that on a manual basis, but now we can actually take that up a notch and provide this data on a live basis so that we can be looking at things and making business decisions more rapidly. So, we have some simple metrics. We run business cases on automation on an annual basis, as well as looking at additional projects that we're going to be working on and what the value that's going to be actually come out of that. We've naturally had AP coordinators leave, and then we haven't had to backfill them, which saves us both recruitment costs as well as salary costs. And we're going to continue looking at these things going into the future, and making sure that we're doing things on a more consistent basis with less errors. Like that's a big piece of what I love about what we have done in AP is that we now have removed human error from the process. The bots, by their simple nature, cannot make a mistake. When there's a mistake, it throws an exception, and then we have a person go look at it. So, we have 100% confidence in what the bots have processed, which allows our review process to be quicker, which allows our team to then be able to spend more of their time doing value-added work within the business, which includes looking at further automations.
When you think about those errors, are you taking it, this is just purely Micah curiosity, but are you taking it to the fact of saying, like, we used to have, I don't know that we said the actual number, but let's say we had 5% error rate in processing some of these. Are we saying that, hey, now that we don't have those, we were calculating the cost of that erroneous data, making it into a downstream system and someone having to correct it? Are we going to that level to calculate that time savings that we now have because we're not making these errors beyond just the data accuracy?
So where some of those savings have come from actually is, we have a lot of discount vendors, and we measured, one of our measurements was how many discounts are we losing? And we weren't losing them because AP wasn't doing their jobs. We were often losing them because the plant wasn't doing their jobs. And so what putting automation in place has done is freed up my supervisors' times, my managers' times to now go work with the plant and improve our processes from the ground up. Because in order to get the whole process working, it needs to start from, the second that procurement process begins, right from purchasing through to the plant and receiving, and then up to the payment processing. So now we measure discounts lost, where we used to lose, $5,000-$10,000 a month. We now lose nothing. And there are months where we do not miss out on a single discount on a single invoice in the entire month. And that's all because we now can look at adding that value, going out in the plant, walking through with people, putting processes in place, sitting with purchasing, figuring out where their errors are coming from. So it's really elevated the whole organization just by putting a hard process in place and then freeing up people's time to go do that training and do that elevating throughout the entire business.
I love that elevated. I like the word elevated. I love the elevated perspective. As you mentioned, there's various points in the process from purchasing to receiving, et cetera, all of which contribute to, say, the discount, and being able to to sort of zoom out and be at that level versus sort of just like, oh, we're going to automate this one task like in purchasing to move to match POs or something, right? It's like this waterfall effect, and then you, to your point about being able to spend the human time together to then go and assess and reassess and look at the new opportunities to continue to optimize. It's super cool because I think a lot of times people just think of like just a specific task being automated, and it's like, okay, we check the box on the task. This is a much more elevated perspective, which is awesome. And Sunil, we're kind of zeroing in on this employee experience and this idea of freeing the humans. You work with a lot of different companies, not just Toro Group. What's been what's your experience with other clients as well, and what's your take on how people are other automation leaders and folks in charge of automation programs that you're at in your client base looking at really considering this employee empowerment, this people empowerment factor?
Absolutely. Actually, this is one of the biggest theme within the companies. And if you look at last few years, one of the paradigm shift for most of the larger companies has been it's not just about how do I improvise my margin, and in the tough environment where the employees and the most expensive cost is a human cost, people are trying to optimize that cost by improvising the efficiency. And that is where most of the leaders are trying to spend time in identifying how can I do more with less. And what Ryan talked about, that an individual 21 years, and then maybe the lowest lift of the entire of the tree, but now today he's one of the most significant. What changed in 21 years? His experience did not change, his knowledge did not change. What changed was the enablement of the technology so that he could have more free time and you could gather that information. He could gather all his last 21 years of experience and make the process better. I think this is a classic story which I tell all the customers that if you guys have watched the movie called The Founder, it's about McDonald's, and they say we were we were overnight sensation, 23 years in making. And I think that's exactly what happened at Toro. That exactly what other organization the leader experiencing, that it's not about just one automation replacing the headcount, but it's about bringing the culture of innovation. Once you bring that in, you are seeing is believing. You do one automation, improvise the efficiency of that in one individual or a group, and then you start building on top of it. And that's the common theme what we are saying. And one of the thing which I loved about Ryan is he's a laser focus, and he keeps repeating only one thing. He says bots cannot make mistake, and I think that's the level of confidence people are getting into, which means once you put a process in place, you don't need to worry about it because the bot is not going to leave you. So that experience is going to continue to remain the same, which means that's kind of a table stake. And now you need to improvise on top of it. And this is exactly what we did at Toro. We built bots. We said now this is a fundamental base process, and now we need to start improvising on it. And that's kind of general theme what we are seeing across the industry at a different levels.
One area that I think a lot of our automation leaders who are joining here, but also automation leaders that I talk to across the globe, struggle with is this connection to leadership and being able to promote and evangelize their program. Obviously, it sounds like Sunil and team have been delivering some killer automations. Ryan, your team has been identifying those great use cases and helping to prioritize where we're going next and how we're going from here. Talk to me about some of how you've been able to create alignment with leadership, how you've been able to promote the efforts of your automation program, and how that's led to some expansion of the program as you've gotten started and continue to grow.
Yeah, so
Sure.
I have been fortunate enough, I guess, within our organization to, have built a level of trust that we're going to have done the due diligence on these type of projects and look at what the returns are going to be, why we're engaging in a project like this. So it really started from, coming into the organization from the start and building that trust with leadership. This is not the first project that we've embarked on looking at. It's the first of this nature, but we had implemented systems previous to this around expense management and looking at different areas in order to put processes in place to improve our business. And now, when the level of scrutiny that goes into expanding our reach of our systems is mainly leadership coming to me and saying, hey, like, keep going, and kind of cheerleading behind us to look at new ways to engage this. And I now have leaders within the organization coming to me and saying, hey, I've been told from leadership that you're looking at or that you use these systems, and maybe there's a possibility of expanding this to other areas within the business. And now it's kind of becoming part of the culture of the organization, really, to look at tools like this to improve everyone's lives up and down the business.
I love this idea too. I was talking to another customer recently about this idea of culture building around technology, and as our platform continues to innovate and expand in its capabilities, specifically with AI, there's a mindset that needs to be learned, adopted, in terms of again, this isn't about FTE replacement. This isn't just about task automation. This is building a culture of innovation with leveraging the tool so that it just sort of expands your. I've started saying, we've often talked about the art of the possible. Even internally with some of the stuff I'm doing, I was talking to one of my teammates, and they're like, this is actually the art of the impossible, because previously it would have been impossible to do the thing that we just couldn't get to for whatever reason, right? But now with the platform, with the capabilities, with specifically like with Copilot, I've got users that don't have to go into, they've got this really simple interface embedded in we use Teams, that's their interface, right? So this idea of sort of the ease of use and the power within that to then go and be able to do their job better, get to the things they couldn't get to, starts to build this culture of ahas that keep coming. I love the idea of like sort of people lining up outside your door saying, hey, I heard you're the guy. Sunil,
I'm
talk to me.
curious, as you think about how the technology here has expanded and I think opened up the aperture of the types of problems you can solve, what has that meant for the solutions that you've delivered both at Toro and with other customers, right? It went from kind of the screen scraping based automations to starting to integrate with some intelligence in the mix, and then starting to have human in the loop with the Copilot capabilities and what you can do with document automation, and now with document automation powered by Gen AI. Talk to me about how that aperture of opportunities has opened up for what Predikly is able to offer for customers.
Yeah, I think one thing is very certain is whenever we have started any project, we have just not looked at this as an automation opportunity, but we have looked at this as an efficiency improvement opportunity. And that's the reason we firmly believe in evangelizing that bringing automation is not about just bringing tools and technology, but it's bringing the culture of innovation. I wrote an article on Forbes. It was very popular. And quite a few of the CIOs reached out and they wanted to know why we are calling it a culture of innovation. And one of the reasons what we firmly believe into that, and Mike, you just alluded towards that, in last 18 months, with the inception of GPT models, the automation has been in mind of everyone, and it has taken a totally different trajectory, to the extent that when we started about 7 years back, it was all about rule based. I have a mechanics where I can click here, 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 and 5 steps. Somebody needs to do the screen scraping. Somebody needs to just uh, uh, connect using WSDL or an API integration. And all I need to do is format that information into CSV so that I can do the pixel perfect screen to enter that information. And that was the aha moment for most of the people. But as the technology is evolving, now people are asking about, hey, I used to do a lot of decisions early on in terms of validating the information, what has come in terms of the supplier information, the dollar information, purchase order information. People said, can you just help me make those decisions using the newest form of technology? And that is where the human in the loop came into the play. And now what people are asking is, human in the loop was in certain form, human in the loop in the prior stage to 18 months, it was still a repetitive function because certain functions were very repetitive. And with the inception of generative AI, even that human in the loop, or the portion of the human in the loop, is becoming more like what RPA used to be 5 years back, which means quite a bit of a rule based. As long as I have my information in a small language model or large language model, I should be able to make that decision. And what's happening is most of the leaders are maybe not up to the speed in terms of the capability of AI could do, but the right leaders have the aspiration how they want to do it. And with the beauty of automation and even engineering team is the way you guys have continued to release the newer features in terms of API tasks, or be it integration with the different models, or now integrating some of the core generative AI function within the document automation. This is giving us an opportunity to talk more and more about what are the possibilities. And I think that's where we are seeing that constantly people are taking a pause in terms of uh, what automation they could do. And this is an exact situation where it's an art of impossible, which means what was not possible few months back or few years back, now with the inception of GPT models, it's possible. So we are seeing a lot of opportunities in terms of how people can do it. And if you are a leader in the organization, I would say that start thinking about how generative AI can solve that bigger problem what you have. So with the combination of rule-based RPA and a generative AI, this is the first step towards bringing the culture of innovation, and we are repeatedly seeing that more and more customers want to adopt that.
That's great to hear.
It's really I mean, you just spoke to it, and like I said, I'm living it. Ryan, when we spoke in the pre-briefing, you said something that was interesting to me. We started talking a little bit about what the future looks like in employing AI, and one of the things you said was, with traditional automation being rule based, you've got that trust factor because it's not thinking, it's just doing, and you've predefined what it's going to do, so you don't really have to worry about it. But I want to dive into that a little bit more as you think about the new capabilities and how you're going to leverage AI. Like, based on what you had said, what are some of your, let's talk about some of your concerns and some of the ways you're thinking about overcoming those concerns.
Yeah, so I guess it would be not dissimilar to some of the other technological things that are happening in our world. It's like you look at a self-driving car, and they might be 100 times safer than a not self-driving car, but the only thing that gets reported is the air when
Right.
it crashes, right? And so it's like there's far fewer crashes per kilometer driven, but all you hear about is the problem. And it's like the idea of using AI to then elevate what we have automated is great. It might make 50 less errors than my manual people, but that one error is going to ruin it for me, right? So that's why rule-based RPA has been so powerful, is there never has been an error because there's rules in place that limit the possibility of errors from ever happening. But if I were to be using generative AI and there was one error, that would be the only thing that leadership heard, was that the system made a mistake, and as a result of that, it has cost us money, or something has happened. Our vendors are not happy because they're not getting paid, or some situation would arise where we have screwed up, right? And so that would cripple a project, even though that error could happen with a person. It would then cause a breach of confidence with leadership, and that is where, Sunil and I have talked about, and we've talked together about how do we get to that point where we can utilize AI but still maintain those controls and have those processes in place to keep the trust, because trust is one of those things that is hard to get and easy to lose.
Yeah, like that. I think that points back to some of what we talked about with the Copilot stuff, right? As we especially start to think about integrating generative AI within a process, we want to think about how we can have humans validating the results, decisions, classifications of these generative models to make sure that we can start to establish that trust. We don't want to just let it loose and just let these things go from day one without that human oversight. So I think that's a component that's really important, and I'm glad you touched on that, because that is an area where a lot of organizations are starting to get to now. Is like, hey, we have to establish what does it look like for us to have best practices around integrating with generative AI, and how do we, potentially start with some lower risk use cases as opposed to jumping into, sending a customer email that no one has taken a look at right away. And so we will be, again, not to be promoting Imagine Again, but I'm going to promote Imagine Again. We'll be talking about that in a session called Going from Zero to One with Generative AI, and some of those types of problems that you might want to think about solving with your very first Gen AI use cases. Things like classification are relatively easy to set up with generative AI, and you can mostly trust the results that you're getting at. And it's easy to say, did it get it right or did it get it wrong? And I can pretty easily quantify that, even with human validation in place. And so how you can start to introduce some of those solutions, and how you can start to do solution stacking to build on top of that, to build a more end-to-end generative AI powered solution.
Yeah. And I mean, I think the journey is going to be the same. When we started with RPA, rule based, and people said, "How can I trust a machine to do the job? What my human employees were doing it? What if things changes? What if my process changes?" And it took some time to build that trust. We need to go through the similar journey where the decisions what we are going to be dependent on generative AI is going to be trusted. And if you look at the larger picture from the technology perspective, forget about the technology part of it, but from the steps perspective, it's going to be whenever you're letting an AI make the decision, the underlying data on which you need to build the model is nothing but your experience. And that's nothing but your data point. So once you have that data point, you tell the model that these are the 5 things or 7 ways I look at this data. And when the next time a similar pattern or similar situation arises, you need to make this kind of decisions. If not, just let me know. So, in a way, we are putting a confined environment for decision making. Is just a different form of it. And that's the reason we need to go through exactly the same trust building exercise what we did with the rule based. And it will, I think people have started trusting it, because as and when the models are coming out, as and when you start building on top of it, they are giving the favorable results. So it's just matter of time. It's the same exercise what we need to go through.
That's awesome. I love this too. We're talking about the human empowerment. We're talking about the trust. I love this dynamic. I think it's interesting too, Ryan, what you're talking about, this idea of, that one accident, if it was the self-driving cars, what makes the news. Does that then, and I think we might have alluded to it a little bit, does that then, if it's not broke, don't fix it. We're not saying go, hey, because now AI is a thing, go apply to all the things you've been doing. It might just be, hey, those things are good. If it's not broke, don't fix it. Let's look at these new opportunities, that art of the possible, or the art of the impossible for that matter, and build the trust there. And to Micah's point, there's in Sunil as well, there's ways to, again, establish those basic approaches that you've been doing since day one and apply that now to this new technology. That's the thing that I kind of keep finding and thinking about is good fundamentals and solid fundamentals are always going to be solid fundamentals. It's regardless of the technology.
Yeah, I liked what Micah said about imagine where it's going from 0 to 1, and it's taking that first step forward in order to begin gaining that level of confidence in using AI to improve our processes. And Sunil walked through it perfectly. It's that currently our process is, it follows this set of rules and then throws an exception. And then it's, all right, well, now let's look at those exceptions and figure out where can we utilize AI to start chipping away at those exceptions that maybe we can then have the system start addressing some of those exceptions and reducing the errors from, hundreds to 5 to 10s, right? And it's what are the first steps we start going forward on, and where is one? Because obviously we don't want to go to 100 on day one and run into problems. We want to take that first step though and start understanding and opening our eyes to the possibilities that can present themselves. Because before we did automation, we had no process like this in place, and even the prospect of going out and talking to companies and figuring out what the use case is and where we can look at implementing this type of technology into our processes was intimidating, right? And I think that's one of those things where you kind of need to take a leap of faith and figure out as you go along what the solution is going to look like, because it is troubling to kind of be a controller where I'm an accountant, so I like everything to be balanced, I like everything to be correct, I like controls to be in place, and then say, all right, now we're going to trust a system to go look at this. Now we're going to start trusting a artificial intelligence to start looking at these things and making decisions on our behalf. So it's taking small steps in order to gain that level of comfort, and then start to look the world, your view on the world changes after you've gone through the first steps, because now all of a sudden you know what those possibilities even look like.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. And I think, potentially to your point, prior to deploying automation, you guys were doing all manual. So that was a leap of faith, right? But now you've had the success with this technology. So maybe the leap is a little bit shorter. It's still a leap, and you still got to figure out how to build that trust. But I think it's an exciting opportunity, clearly. As I said, I'm doing a number of things here that just are blowing my mind. But we are going from 0 to 1 on many different facets, and a couple we're going to 2 to 3 already because it moves so fast, and we're trusting it and trusting the data that we're getting back. Guys, I want to open up and remind the audience that this is an interactive conversation. Obviously, the four of us are having a really fun and engaging conversation here, but I invite any of you in the audience, if you've got a question for any one of us or all of us, just raise your hand. There's a little function there in your profile. You can raise your hand and we can invite you into the show. And also, I just want to say thank you, Micah, for doing shameless plugs for me. Usually it's me that's doing the shameless plugs, so I appreciate that. Good looking out.
I work too hard to not be promoting all of this stuff.
With regards to, we mentioned so we're talking about generative AI and AI in general. I think everybody thinks GPT right away, but with a product like document automation, for instance, it's leveraging AI and generative AI. But the concept of IDP has been around for, I don't even know, what, 30 years, something like that. Clearly, it's a lot better now. But with the latest advancements in document automation, specifically around invoice processing, is this something that you're already using or looking to employ, Ryan and Sunil?
Yeah, I mean, this document automation is super exciting. It's this is the perfect step up from what we had, which was the IQ bot as a product, which took the OCR engine to the next level, where this was the first time where there was a layer which was learning based on your data. And the classic example is today at Toro, they've got the current use case what we're trying to solve. They had a little over 140 suppliers, and we had to use it. So with the automation, the document automation is the first step towards implementing artificial intelligence, and customers are super excited about it. And more and more we are having conversation with individuals. They are looking forward to this newer capability. And of course, the co-pilot is exciting enough, because this is the first time they are able to deploy a low cost AI assistant, which will help you be more efficient in getting your job done. So yes, we are seeing a lot of traction within the industry, and we are seeing a lot of traction in terms of the conversations.
It's awesome. It's awesome. With regards to Automation Copilot, I was using it here and there, but with the new with the new AI agents that have built for marketing some different things, just the simplicity of, and I've built these things and I've been in the back end and go into the system and do all the things, but it's almost like a sigh of relief where I can just go into like Teams where we've got the widget embedded, and I can just go in and click a couple buttons and then the automation happens. Like, it's just such a game changer. And so Micah, that's a real shameless plug there, but it's not just a shameless plug. It's really true. I'm just so excited about what we're able to do next. And then kind of to your point, Ryan, about, scaling to other functions and whatnot. When I talk to various colleagues, and admittedly, even in an automation company, not everyone's using automation every day in their job here even. But now I can be like, hey, if you go into Copilot, there's this there's a list of automations that you can use. You just click a button, give it a little bit of input, and boom, it does the thing. And they're fired up about it too.
Yeah, I think the big power of this is that the traditional method of processing these kind of documents relied very heavily on templates. And when you had templates, that means that if I've got some data that spans across multiple pages, I've got a really hard time being able to extract that. And knowing that, hey, this table started here, it ended here, or this kind of data started on page 1, now it's on page 2, that became a nightmare of maintaining all of these different templates. Additionally, there was an entire scope of documents that were completely off limits, which was the unstructured documents, because we don't know where that data is coming from. It sometimes could be on page 1, it sometimes could be on page 2. And so even with the best of aliases and the best of trying to do this extraction through things like regular expression, it really just wasn't there. And so with document automation now powered by generative AI, you have the ability to really just ask an LLM for the results of your question. So if I want to know what the address is for this lease document, I don't have to know if it's on page 1 or page 2 or page 3. I just have to know, what question am I trying to answer? And through document automation, it's able to resolve that for me. And it's incredibly powerful, and it's mind-blowing that I'm able to use that to dynamically extract data from documents. And so it's really opened up the capabilities of the different types of document automation types processes that I would take on. It's really opened me up to being able to do more than just forms processing and more than just invoices, but starting to look at even more complex document types.
The art of the impossible.
And also,
Right.
shameless plug, we'll be doing document automation at Imagine. We've got a
We're
bot game.
getting all of our shameless plugs jammed
That's
in
right.
here in the last 5
No,
minutes.
well, I mean, the reality is we've got a bot games challenge and a hands-on session for people who want to come and try this stuff out. We're going to be using document automation with Gen AI to extract data from these unstructured form types. And it's a fun way to get hands-on with it, try it in our environment. You're not risking any of your company or private data or things like that. And we're going to be walking people through exactly how to build these, how to set them up, and how to use them in a real process. And that's another thing that I would talk about that's really important that we're stressing at Imagine is that you don't want to be using document automation within just a single task bot or a single automation. It really belongs as a much larger part of a process where I have this human exception processing, where I have things like classification involved, where I have classification correction, and I can start to really take care of all those different exceptions.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think one of the thing which this is the easiest way to seeing is believing. If you are an automation leader within your organization, AI is must to have as part of your automation strategy. Now, with the so many things changing so rapidly within the artificial intelligence arena, document automation is the first easiest way to bring in that culture of AI within the organization. I think that's where people will start seeing it. And the first step would be document automation if you have a use case. If not, everyone has a use case of automation copilot, which means that's a low risk, low cost AI or the culture of AI within the organization. So I will highly recommend everyone to have a look at it. If you are coming to Imagine, try to attend those sessions. If not, there's a lot of good information available uh, on Automation Anywhere website. So exciting times are ahead.
I appreciate that, Sunil. You're officially in the shameless plug club. I'm just kidding. No, it's true. As Ryan had mentioned about this leap of faith and sort of the 0 to 1 that Micah mentioned as well, there are, I think, simple and really effective. We just named 2 of the products ways to really see the power of it, and it's not just about sort of seeing the power of it and sort of piloting it or whatever. There's real immediate impact, real business value right away, which I think is so exciting. So guys, I can't believe that we've already gone nearly an hour. I'm going to let you out 3 minutes early. Don't you love when you're in a meeting and someone's like, I'm going to give you guys some time back, and it's like 2 minutes. You're like, great, gee, thanks. But I'm going to give you guys some time back. Ryan, thank you so much for making time for us. It's been great to get to know you a little bit, and I look forward to talking to you more. And I want to hear from you again and see where you're at in your journey and how the journey's going.
Thanks, Gabe. I hope to see you at Imagine.
I will be there, and I will hunt you down, sir. It'll be great. It'll be great to see you guys. All of you, thanks for joining us. Our audience members, I hope we're going to see all of you at Imagine as well. Sunil, I know we'll see you there. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, looking forward to it. And thank you so much, Ryan, for your time today. I know it's a busy schedule for you, knowing you from last 2 years. So, but truly appreciate you sharing your knowledge.
No problem, Sunil.
Thanks.
Thanks again, everybody. Micah, as always, super excited. I can't wait to do Bot Games Lightning. I think you're probably creating some FOMO just about Bot Games in general because we're only doing it on site, right?
That's right. It's only on site. We'll have a leaderboard. We've got prize packs for the winners. It's going to be a fun competition.
So book your tickets, people. Go get those. Go sign up for Bot Games and see how you stack up. All right, everybody. Have an amazing weekend. We will be back next Friday as we build up. We're running up to Imagine here. We're diving into AI and agents, and it's getting really exciting. So thanks everyone for joining. Feel free to reach out to any one of us if you have any questions that you didn't get a chance to ask here. If you need additional information on Automation Copilot, on document automation, any of the things, we got your back. We'll talk to you all soon. Peace.
Have a good one. Thank you, guys.